Hey everybody! So some of you already know that I used to work for MAC Cosmetics. I worked there for 2 years before I eventually quit due to various reasons, which I'll get into in this video. I wanted to work for MAC since I was 13, so by the time I finally got hired, it had been 10 years of me aspiring to be a MAC artist. I thought that if I worked for MAC, that meant that I made it. I saw MAC as the top, the best place you could work for artistry, for makeup. It's where people who were passionate and talented got to work. And that's what I wanted. I was encouraged to apply by one of their current employees. I was already working in the beauty department in the store, so I was just like shopping around, browsing at MAC like I do, and one of the employees just mentioned like, hey, you know we're hiring, right? And I was like, holy shit, like, okay, I'll apply. So then I did. I got immediately hired on as a permanent artist, which meant that I didn't have to start as freelance. So most of the time you have to start as a freelance artist and kind of like prove your worth, and then you can become a permanent artist. But I was able to just get hired on as permanent. So I was like beyond ecstatic. I came into MAC with hope and excitement and love for the brand, and honestly a lot of naivety. I didn't know at the time, but I was coming into a dying brand and I suffered for it, and I watched a lot of my friends and coworkers suffer for it. I already know this is going to be a long video, but there's so much that goes into MAC and working for MAC and what it's like and the things that you go through when you work there. And a lot of it is horrible, and I need to get it off my chest. I need to just put it out there, and I need to just be done with it. I don't support the brand anymore, and I don't recommend MAC to anybody. That is partially because of how myself and my friends were treated while we worked there, but it is largely because they test on animals. This is a big reason why I quit too. I was embarrassed to say that I worked for MAC. I was embarrassed to tell people that what I was wearing was MAC makeup when people asked, because they're not a cruelty-free brand. They have a really strangely worded animal testing policy on their website, and that is because they try to make it sound like they don't test on animals when they do. The fact of the matter is they choose to sell in countries where it is required by law. It is their choice to make, and the reasons why they do that are money related. And this is something that I was told in training when we asked, why don't we just pull out of those countries? It's because of money. MAC wants to make as much money as possible, despite the fact that a lot of cruelty-free brands do really well, and some that come to mind are Kat Von D, Urban Decay, Anastasia. Those are all MAC's competitors, and they do really well. But MAC wants to make as much money as possible. It doesn't matter who or what they hurt. We were put through multiple trainings on how to make it sound like we were cruelty-free if a customer asked. We couldn't outright say that, yeah, our products are cruelty-free. We couldn't outright say that we don't test on animals, but they trained us on how to like twist it to make it sound like we don't. And to me, that is super manipulative and super misleading, especially when animal cruelty is something that people are so passionately against and it becomes their whole lifestyle, that when somebody asks if we test on animals and we try to like mislead them into thinking that we don't do it. And I know like everyone should be responsible and look it up themselves, but not everyone will be. There are a few ways that MAC chooses to run their business that I didn't agree with when I worked there, and a huge one was the high pressure that they put on artists to make sales goal. Again, money is the most important thing to MAC. That's obvious. And I know that it's an important thing in any business. It's literally like what a business is. It's just there to make money. But MAC took it to the extreme, to the point where they abused their artists. To them, sales take priority over artistry. And for a brand who claims to be an artistry brand, it's a little hypocritical. And again, it's a little bit misleading. You know, people choose to work for MAC because they market themselves as being high artistry. But when you get in, you realize that they would rather hire a salesperson over a talented makeup artist any day. And I've seen this happen. I've seen them hire people who have no makeup experience just because they have sales experience. I've seen them hire people who can't do a winged liner on themselves or anybody else because they can sell. They would give us unreasonable sales goals and then write us up monthly for not making them. Included in these write-ups were threats of demotion and termination. My best friend that I had at work got pushed out because of her sales numbers. She wasn't fired, but she eventually quit because she was put under constant stress. She was beaten down every single day over her numbers. They kept threatening to fire her if she missed any sales goal for any amount of consecutive months. So it would be like, she would miss her goal, they'd threaten to fire her if she missed it again. So as a team, we all helped her for the next month so she could make her goal and not get fired. And then if she missed it again the next month, same thing. If you miss it after this, you're fired, you're done. So obviously she quit. It was causing her constant anxiety. These types of write-ups and threats and pressure encouraged really sharky behavior from artists. It made us feel like we had to step on each other to get sales. It made us feel like we had to pressure customers to buy more so that we could make a higher sales number. Luckily, I worked with really, really amazing people. We always tried to work as a team and we always tried to help each other out. The write-ups were done by like a curve. So realistically, usually nobody made their goal. Usually the entire counter missed. It was done by average. So even though everybody missed goal, only half of the people ever got written up for it, which is pretty fucked up. Like, obviously there's a problem with the goals that you're giving us. If nobody's making the goals, why are we only punishing half of the people when the problem isn't the people at all? Do you know what I'm saying? So we all tried to work as a team to try to keep things as equal as we could, so that when the numbers came out at the end of the month, like, we knew some of us were getting written up, but we tried to make it so that it was kind of a little bit more balanced. We only ever had one girl, one fucking girl, that didn't give a fuck about the rest of us, didn't give a fuck about the customers. She would pressure them. She was intense, and she would steal customers from us. She would steal sales from us. We were really lucky that we only had one girl like that. Those people exist everywhere. And some counters were made up of entirely those types of people. And I think that my team, because I had such a really good team, that kept me at MAC for the entire 2 years. I left pretty much once everybody else already left, because I really loved who I worked with. The managers I had seemed like good people. Like, I'm sure outside of work they were good people, but MAC incentivized them to fuck their teams over. So they really weren't good leaders, and we didn't really appreciate the things that they did. And it's because of MAC. It's because of these write-ups, and it's because of the pressure that the people in charge were able to kind of like manipulate the situation and work the system to their benefit. So the managers are able to make the schedule. So they were able to give themselves the best shifts. They were also able to change the numbers in the computer. So we all had a theory that our one manager was changing the numbers to save herself from getting write-ups. There's nothing backing that theory. Like, we have no proof, but we all kept a daily sales record. So at the end of the day, we all wrote down our sales, all the numbers we did. And then when so like, this was on the counter, like, this wasn't private. We could look at anyone else's numbers anytime we wanted to. And so at the end of the month, when the whole like spreadsheet came out of all of our numbers, hers were always way more off what she had written down for the day. They were, and like, everybody's numbers were off on that sheet because it factors in things like returns and employee discounts. So it never matched up to what we wrote down, but hers was always like disproportionately suspect. There was no way for us to prove it, but we all were pretty much like, sure, she was fucking with something, you know? And she was able to do that because as a manager, she was able to go in and change the numbers, make the spreadsheet look however she wanted it to look, and then fuck us over because it was, the write-ups were done on a curve. So she was always at the top, she was always number one, and it fucked us over. The managers also would schedule themselves for an 8-hour day, but then only give themselves a goal that reflected a 4-hour day. And they said this was so that they could have office time, but they like rarely ever used their office time. It was only really ever on Mondays that they stayed in the office, but on Mondays they didn't have a goal at all because that was their office day. So it was weird that like every single day they only had half of the goal as everybody else had. So they were able to like make it and then some. So again, if we're graded on a curve and you're making double your goal, that only fucks over the rest of us. That only guarantees that the rest of us are gonna get write-ups. We're gonna get threatened every single month. We're gonna worry all the time because you, as a manager, are able to fuck us over and do that. It was pretty fucked up. Booking appointments for events was the bane of my fucking existence. So, fuck. Mac would throw an event. Every time they launched a new collection or a new product, we'd have to throw an event. And I put event in quotation marks because it was not special. It was not like an exclusive thing. It was literally like like the product launched and we would have to like invite people in for this event. And when they came in, it was literally because we had to book so many people that we didn't have time to do makeup on these people. They would come in for the event and we would bring them over to the new product or the new collection and we'd be like, wow, look, this is the what's a collection we had? This is the Fairy Whispers collection. Yeah, so it's like a really glowy vibe, really good like summery, really pretty shimmery. Do you want to try anything on? And we would let them pick one thing and we would put that one thing on them and then they'd leave. They'd buy it or they'd leave. The idea was like that if people are coming in anyway, they'll probably just like buy something or like see something to buy. And sometimes that happened, but like mostly it was just a huge waste of time. And these events happened so frequently because Mac, for at least the 2 years that I worked there, were constantly fucking pushing new things out. So oftentimes we were booking for more than one event at once. So it would be weird to ask a customer like, we're launching a new eyeshadow palette, do you want to come in and look at it? Great, we're also launching a new collection, can I put your name down for that too? And like we were like, it was so stupid. The same way that they put a ton of pressure on us to make sales goal, they also pressured us to book for these appointments. So I would say like on average I would probably have to book like 30 names for each event. Like eventually customers started to realize that these events were just like we were signing them up to just look at a new collection. It wasn't really anything special or fun. So people stopped giving a shit. Like people didn't want to come to these stupid events. So it got to the point where like we were all just writing down names of our family members and friends just so we could get names in there so that we don't get written up. And these like event bookings also went into our reviews. So if we didn't book 100%, we weren't getting a raise, pretty much. It was so fucking stupid. It was so pointless. It was just a way for them to add more stress onto us, and the return on investment for that was literally zero. Like they didn't care how many people showed up. They just cared how many names were written down. That's why we just eventually wrote our friends' names down. They didn't give a fuck like what happened at these events. When you work at Mac, you have to realize that hard work is not going to be valued. Talent, passion, creativity, drive, those things are not valued at Mac. They don't care if you're the best technical artist on your team. They don't care if customers love you. They don't want you to be a team player. They don't care about you at all. You're just a number on a spreadsheet to them. I worked there for 2 years and my manager's manager, the MRO, didn't know my fucking name. I had met this woman dozens of times and she didn't fucking know my name. She didn't care about me at all. And my numbers weren't bad. They were definitely average. Like I said, we all tried to like keep each other on the average level, except for that one bitch that we hated. We like didn't care where she was. We didn't try to help her because she sucked ass. But the rest of us like stayed pretty average. It really mattered to me that everyone on my team had a fair chance, and my career definitely suffered for it. I had dreams of becoming a trainer one day, which now is hilarious because they recently cut like half of the trainer positions due to like budget cuts or whatever, so whatever, that dream would have never been reached anyway. I told my manager about my aspirations, and it's fucked up because she knew that, and she would hold opportunities over my head knowing that she would never give them to me because she knew how badly I wanted to succeed. One time she asked me if I wanted to join the Impact team, which is by invitation only, and it meant that I could travel to different stores to help out with events. But a few days before I was supposed to meet the trainers for it, I was told that my personality wasn't good enough. Straight up, my personality wasn't good enough. It didn't matter that at the time my numbers were exceptional. My repeat business was exceptional. And that, honestly, my repeat business maintained exceptional level throughout my time working there. But again, it didn't fucking matter if the customers loved you and requested you all the time. It didn't fucking matter. It didn't matter that at that point I was helping to train other members on the team on how to do certain techniques. None of that mattered because they didn't like my personality. I am a shy person by nature, but I'm also passionate and driven and hardworking, and so it really hurt me when she said that. I can push myself to be social when I need to be. It just doesn't come naturally, and I had shown that time and time again. And the whole point of the Impact team was that the exceptional artists were invited, and I had been invited until they decided that I was a little bit too quiet. They didn't want to hang out with someone who was a little more quiet. I don't know. I don't know. And it's pretty fucked up that she gave me that opportunity just to take it away from me. But it turns out that Impact team is mostly fake. And the only time I've ever heard of anybody from Impact team doing anything was when my assistant manager had to fill in at another store for their manager. And she had to do that because she was on Impact team, because being on Impact team meant that you could be pulled from your counter to go somewhere else. They never did anything cool, at least in the 2 years that I worked there. It literally like didn't matter. It was just a way for my manager to fucking step on me. I don't know. I don't know why the fuck she did that. It was fucked up though. I cried about it for like a week. I also kept getting trained to do advanced certification, and I kept passing mock certifications, but they just wouldn't let me get certified. They said it was because they weren't doing certifications anymore, or at the time. I don't think they're even doing them anymore. But like at the time that they told me that, like another girl, the Sharky girl from our team, got advanced certified. And I was a model for my manager who didn't even pass her certification. But no, I couldn't even do it. Even though I was passing the mock ones, I was training to do it. It didn't fucking matter. I wasn't allowed to. Keep in mind that like I was never given like actual reasons for this. Like looking at my numbers, I was either average or doing pretty well. My repeat business was exceptional. My artistry skills were exceptional. I was a team player. I was hardworking. My reviews were consistently exceptional. But they kept like almost giving me these opportunities just to take them away because they knew I wanted them really, really badly. They were preparing me to be third key manager, and I kept being given responsibilities that a third key manager would have. My manager kept saying things like, when you're third key pretty soon, you're gonna need to know this. And then she would teach me whatever it was. So there was one day when our current third key let us all know that she was transferring stores. And at that point, everyone on the team knew that she was leaving. So I went to my manager and I said, can we schedule an interview for me to move into third key? And she said, I have to think of a name for our MRO. Actually, I don't even need to think of a name. We all called her Satan. We all referred to her as Satan, so I'm just gonna use her fucking name, Satan. So I asked if I could interview, and she goes, no, Satan won't let you. I wasn't even allowed to interview. Not that Satan wouldn't let me be third key. Satan just wouldn't let me interview. Sorry, my camera overheated, but I was saying that she never actually gave me a reason for why I couldn't interview. I thought it was just because of my shitty personality, but then I later found out that they already had somebody in mind for that position. But then if that's the case, why did you constantly tell me that I would get that position? I don't know. If you already had someone in mind that wasn't me, don't fucking continue to tell me that I'm the person in mind for it until it actually opens up and I don't get it. What the fuck? Anyway, I was given a product specialist position, which is essentially a fake title because you have extra responsibility, but you don't get any extra pay for it. As a product specialist, I had to create business plans. I had to do paperwork for the counter, which happened twice a week. It was called a snapshot, and it got sent to the trainers and the regional manager and the managers twice a week. I had to organize theme days. I was in charge of training the team on new launches. I had to make trend boards and information boards, and it was a lot. And I had to do all of this stuff on my own time because I wasn't given any time off the floor or office time. So I was given a full goal when I was at work. So I had to do it either on my lunch break when I wasn't getting paid or at home when I wasn't getting paid. And this was hours of fucking work every week that I wasn't getting paid for. And I could have done it at work. Like, I could have just like went to the office and done it, but then I would have been missing out on hours of sales every single week that I was being gold for. It was a shitty position. It's nice to put on my resume because like it looks nicer than it actually was, but it was supposed to be a 6-month position. And then I ended up doing it for a year. And then I told the manager, this was a new manager at this point, and I told her that I was ready for something else. I had already been certified in product specialist. I'd done it, but I had to keep doing it because nobody else wanted to. Literally, I had to do it because nobody else wanted to. MAC does not treat their artists well. I worked with a girl who broke her arm and she couldn't work for some time because she couldn't do makeup with her broken arm. So like she was out of work, and when she came back, our manager was such a bitch to her that this girl called in sick every single day that she was gonna have to be with our manager, and then eventually quit. And this girl was really nice, and like our manager was just a cunt to her because she missed work. I don't know. She had a doctor's note. She had a broken fucking arm. She was still a bitch to her. Our assistant manager was getting on somebody's case about her booking goal. This was my work best friend. I'm just like fucking pounding it into her to the point where my friend just said something along the lines of like, yeah, I know, I already talked to the manager about it. Just like that. And from that point on, our assistant manager was a raging cunt to this girl for the rest of her time there until she quit. Then the assistant manager at one of our team meetings went on a rant about that situation. Like, she was livid about it months later, and she said like, I was just trying to help an artist with her booking goals and I got bitch slapped just for trying to help. And now like we still talk about this in our group chat. It's so fucking ridiculous. We referred to it as the bitch slap heard around the world. All my friend said was, yeah, you know, I already talked to the manager. Bitch slap. She blew it out of proportion. And from that point on, she used her rank to step on my friend any chance she could. And she was allowed to, because she was a manager. MAC claims to be accepting of everybody's personal style. That was the very first training I ever went to, was like all themed around personal style and how your makeup and clothing choices reflect your style and how those can complement each other and blah, blah, blah. But on multiple occasions, myself and other artists were told that we needed to dye our hair because our manager didn't like it. There was nothing wrong with any of our hair. It was like, you know how the trend in the last couple of years has been to like grow out your hair, like similar to like how this is, where it's like ombre is what it was. It was like grown out into one color, faded into another, and like eventually getting into another. So my hair at the time was purple. I had been growing it out, not bleaching it, but still coloring it purple. So it was growing out into like a dusty purple into like a super vibrant purple. Just like my hair now, but purple. And my manager fucking hated it. There were other girls who like Miley Cyrus was growing her hair out at the time, so she had the blonde and then like the roots that were like kind of like faded into the blonde. There was no harsh lines involved anywhere, but it was like a grown out ombre root look, and it's in trend. But our manager just didn't like that trend, so none of us were allowed to have our hair like that. Sorry, I thought we worked for MAC where this shit was allowed, but since our manager just doesn't like it, we're not allowed to do it. So one time I had requested a 2-week vacation, and I had scheduled this out 6 months in advance. And it was never customary when requesting time off for PTO or just like a requested day off. It was never customary for our manager to come back and like confirm it with us. It was just put on the schedule, and if there was an issue with it, then we'd hear about it. So I requested these 2 weeks in December, and I was requesting them for June. Never heard a fucking peep about it until 3 weeks before I was supposed to leave. I was told that my PTO was rejected. So I had to make up a fake vacation that I was taking. Like, I thought like quick on the spot, and I just said like, dude, I'm sorry, but months ago I booked plane tickets, I booked hotel rooms, I'm gonna be out of state for those 2 weeks and it's all already paid for, so I'm going. And that was a lie. Like, at this point in June, I already knew I was leaving. A lot of my friends had already left. I was just looking for a new job, and so I didn't give a fuck. I was like, if you're gonna seriously take away my PTO, then I'm gonna quit. I didn't give a fuck. So I just made up this like fake vacation that I was taking, and she had no choice. She could have called my bluff and told me I had to work, at which point I would have quit, but she didn't. She was like, okay, I'll make it work. And so I had to invent a fake vacation so that when I came back after 2 weeks, I had something to talk about, just so I could get the PTO that I had earned and requested 6 months in advance. And so a few weeks before I left, so I don't think I even put in my 2 weeks at this point, but I like had another job that I was interviewing for. So at this point I was like, done, checked out. And we had a new manager at the time, and this new manager called in sick every single weekend. I don't think I worked with her for a weekend. And if I did, it was for like a prom or something, or not prom, yeah, prom. I don't know. She called in sick all the time. And during my entire 2 years at MAC, I had called in sick maybe twice, which I don't think is even true. It's probably 0 times, but like, I'm not gonna say 0 in case it wasn't. Twice at the most, but I can't remember a time that I had called in sick. So I called in sick and I said, I have pink eye. My little sister had pink eye like a month before that. So what I did was I took a picture of her medicine. It had our last name on it, but it didn't have my sister's first name, just our last name. And I think I had my finger covering the date, or I had it turned in a way that it just said like the prescription and our last name. And I took a picture of that and I was like, I have pink eye. I went to the doctor and he said I can't work for 48 hours. But like, I wasn't even fucking anybody over because I had the next day off. So I just wanted the 2 days. I said, fuck it. I want to go to the state fair and I want to go today. I was at the state fair having a great fucking day. My manager thinks that I'm home with my eyes crusted shut because I have pink eye, which is a highly contagious infection of the eye. And she called me later that day and asked me if I can come into work because they got busy. Bitch, I have pink eye, or so you think, and you want me to come into work and touch people's face and eyes with my pink eye ridden body. Like, obviously she knew I was lying, but it doesn't, like, she didn't know anything. She just thought, and happened to be right, that I was lying. But she had a picture of pink eye medicine with my name on it. It just goes to show how much of a fuck they don't give about their artists or their customers. Because I don't care if you think I'm lying or not. There's pink eye involved. Don't ask me to touch people's faces and eyes when there's a possibility that I have pink eye. Bitch, what? I couldn't believe it. So, the customers. I already made a story time about one of my worst customers. A lot of people were guessing, because I didn't say where I worked in that video, but it was Mac, and a lot of people guessed Mac. But like, to be honest, a lot of the clientele at my counter were really fucking hard to deal with. I've worked in various customer service jobs over the last 9 years, and I even worked in the same store that Mac was in. But I had never in my life gotten the types of difficult customers that I had gotten at Mac. Like, it's a whole new level of crazy. I'm definitely not saying that all my customers were bad. It was certainly like a minority percentage of the customers that I got that were like crazy and evil and like bad. Most of my customers were like fine. I have made personal friendships with people that started as just a customer at Mac. So I don't hate customers, and I didn't hate my customers, but I'd be lying if I said that the customers weren't a big reason why I wanted to leave. People would treat us like a makeup rental service. They would buy whatever, and then they'd come back a couple months later to try to return it. The boxes would be like bent and broken and orange, and the products would be like nasty and covered in makeup. And they would try to say, it broke me out. It didn't work for me. It's not the right color. And it's like, bitch, you've been using this for 3 months. It's mostly gone and now it broke you out? Like, maybe because it's old, maybe because you're not using it the right way. I don't know. It's not the fault of the product, but they still tried to return it. And for a while, we had a return policy that allowed that, and it fucking got to me. Because like, how are you gonna buy something, use it up mostly, and then return it just to buy it again and like continue that process? And people would play a game that we would always refer to as Build-A-Face, where they would come in and they'd say something like, you know, they'd point to an eyeshadow and they'd be like, I want to try this on. I want to see what this looks like on me. So we'd put it on them, and then they'd be like, what would I put in the crease? Can you show me how to do a winged eyeliner? What would you do with my brows? What foundation do you use? Can I try it on? What lip color would go well with this? And so on and so on, until they've gotten a full makeover but not had to pay for it. And these people, every single time, would ask us to write down the products, and they'll see how it looks on them, they'll see how it works, and they'll buy it later if they like it. They never buy anything. They never do. We as artists had to think of creative ways around this, because like, it's pretty scammy, you know? And I'm gonna be honest, like, it can hurt customer service with legitimate customers who literally just want to try something on before they buy it, but they have intentions to buy it. And it hurts the service there, because if they phrase the question in a way that sounds scammy, we're gonna just hurry through it. We're not gonna like teach them as much. We're just gonna try to fucking hurry through it and get it done, or we're gonna just like do half their face and force them to do the other half, which is something that we were trained to do to avoid these like scammy Build-A-Face customers, because they're just trying to get their makeup done. They just want their makeup to look good for a reason, you know, they're going out. So when you would hand them the brush and tell them to do the other half of their face, they wouldn't want to do it because they like don't want half their face to look busted. So like, it did hurt customer service, until the point when we realized that these people were like legit customers, at which point like then we treated them the way they should have been treated in the first place. There's always going to be somebody to ruin it for the rest of us, and it fucking sucks that we were getting like scammed, and we had to change our customer service tactics to accommodate that, and that sucks. In response to that, my manager and other people would say things like, well, it's your job, you're getting paid to do it, so just do it. You should be happy that you're doing makeup, and you could maybe learn something new, blah blah blah. But like, you have to remember how much pressure we were being put under every single day to make sales goal. So when the scammy Build-A-Face customer comes in and you spend an hour with them and they don't buy anything, you just missed out on sales. Everybody is gonna look at that customer as a burden, as a chore. I mean, ultimately that customer is hurting the artist. So that artist who doesn't seem as ecstatic as you want them to be when you ask them to show you how to do a cut crease might have just walked out of the office getting written up, and they might think you're just trying to get your eyes done so you can go out. You would be jaded too in that situation. People work for Mac because they have a passion for makeup, and new artists don't feel like shitty about that type of customer until they get their first write-up, and then their second, and then their third. New artists are happy to do that kind of stuff because that's why they wanted to work for Mac. So it's not that all MAC artists are bitches, it's that MAC artists are being stepped on and pushed down to the point where they don't want to do makeup on people because a lot of people aren't buying anything. A lot of people are just scamming them for free makeup. A lot of people who make appointments and come in to get their makeup done end up returning the makeup that they bought, because in order to get your makeup done, there's a $60 minimum purchase. So a lot of people will come in and get their makeup done and spend an hour in the chair, and you know, they'll buy the makeup that they can use that night to touch up, and then they'll come back and return it all. Again, the makeup rental, the waste of time, the returning of products, which hurts the sales goal of that artist. So on a Saturday, everybody makes goal, and it's great because people are getting their makeup done and people are buying $60 each. But then on Wednesday or Thursday, whenever people come in to return it, that artist is in the negative. So yes, returning products will piss off artists because why would you have wasted their time in the first place getting your makeup done? You just do it at home. And it, like, honestly, it sucks that, like, I still feel this way and a lot of MAC artists feel this way. MAC should not be putting the pressure that they do on artists, because it changes how you feel about makeup. And it takes people who are passionate about makeup and makes them fucking hate it. Okay, I've had like 3 camera changes throughout this whole video, but we're gonna fucking get through it. I forgot what I was talking about, but I did remember about a customer, a really, ooh, this bitch. She would, I never knew her name, but she was nasty. She would come in all the time and she would buy the same NW25 Pro Longwear foundation and she would leave. And then she would come back a few hours later to return it. And she did this all the time, like a few times a month. She would come in, buy the same foundation, come back a few hours later and return it. So obviously something shady is going on. Obviously she's leaving and like pouring it out and refilling it with something cheaper. Like that's the only reason you would do something like that. Because we would open them up and it would be like, they'd be like a little bit messy, but they'd be full of foundation. No matter what, we never would take a return and then sell it again. Ever. Even if it was a lipstick and you could tell it had not been touched. You don't know where it has been. You don't know what somebody did with it. So she would be returning these foundations that were being destroyed, but nobody like ever said anything to her. And she did this all the fucking time. So after, it was like, I think after I'd been there for about a year and I had been seeing this fucking customer come in and steal from us, at one point I refused to sell her the foundation. She asked for her fucking NW25 Pro Longwear. She always fucking knew. And one day I was like, you know, I've noticed that you've been trying this foundation for a long time and you haven't really liked it because it keeps getting returned. And instead of having to keep destroying these foundations, I want to give you a sample of it. So you can try it for a while, you can try it for free, then you can know for sure if you like it or not. And I like kind of framed it like that, like I would not sell her the foundation. And she caused a huge scene about it. But I never saw her again after that. She never came back. But like people would do that. Like it's a common thing that people would like buy an expensive product, empty it out and fill it up with something cheaper. People do that with our Fix Plus spray. They would fill it up with water. People are scammy and you have to be careful out there. So we had a really bad situation one day, and this was like a school dance, like a homecoming or something, and we were booked solid. These always happen on Saturday too, so we were like busier than usual, booked solid. We were all multitasking our asses off. And these 2 blonde, middle-aged bitches walked in. They walked by the hordes of customers. They walked by every single artist who was occupied, walked right up to the front desk and waited. So our assistant manager goes up there thinking like maybe they're just people who are early for their appointment, they want to check in. No, bitch. And I was standing right there. So like the front desk was here and then there was like 2 stations. My assistant manager was at one and I was at the other. So like I heard all of this. They said, "We're here to get our makeup done." And she was like, my assistant manager, Susie, not her name, Susie was like, "Oh, do you have appointments?" And they were like, "No, we just need to get our makeup done." And Susie was like, "Oh, we're booked completely full for the day up until I think like 5 o'clock or like 4 o'clock or something." So she was like, "We can get you in at 4 if you want to come back." And they started screaming. They were screaming. They stomped their feet on the floor and screamed at my assistant manager to the point where everybody heard. They said, we need our makeup done right now. Right now, we're here now and we need it right now. And screamed. And my assistant manager put her fucking tail between her legs and said, okay, give me 10 minutes to finish this, like her current makeup that she was doing, and I'll sit one of you down and I'll find someone else for the other one. And then she did. She like sped up her little prom girl or whoever, which like the proms were my favorite to do. I loved doing like high school dance makeup. It was always a crazy day, but they were all so sweet and I loved them and talking to them and their moms, and I loved it. So like I felt bad for her like prom girl or whatever dance it was. And then she started one of the bitches, and I was like in the middle of my makeup appointment and my coworker was finishing up hers, but she was leaving for the day. So my Susie or Sally told both of us, we were both standing there, and she was like, one of you needs to take this other girl. And I was like, well, I just started this makeup, so it's gonna be like 40 minutes. And my coworker was like, yeah, well, I'm leaving. Like she had her brushes, like she was going to wash her brushes and leave. And my Susie was like, it doesn't matter, one of you needs to do it. And we both said that we were uncomfortable with it. We did not want to do her makeup after the way she just screamed at Susie and the way she stomped her feet and the way she demanded that we accommodate her. And we were both so uncomfortable with it, but my coworker who was leaving just had to do the makeup. She had to stay and do it. So she did her makeup. Susie never thanked this artist or apologized to this artist for putting her through something that she expressed she was uncomfortable with. Nothing. Never talked about it again. And that situation is what caused that coworker to quit. That artist had a full-time job. She was super part-time. She was only 10 hours a week at max. She didn't need the job. And being put into that situation caused her to quit, because it was like the final straw for her. Just again, it's so obvious we're not valued. They don't care about us. They don't care about what we're comfortable with. They don't fucking care about us. There are a lot of videos on YouTube about bad customer service experiences at MAC. And I don't think people fully understand how soul-crushing it is to work for MAC. The artists are treated as disposable because they honestly are. Everybody with a love for makeup wants to work for MAC, and that makes the artists highly replaceable. MAC is a dying brand, and they're cutting corners and they're making artists suffer for it. I know people who had been with the brand for over 10 years, and they used to talk about how amazing it was to work for MAC. MAC was started by two men named Frank, so it was Frank and Frank. And when Frank and Frank were running the brand, the artists were treated amazing. They were highly respected. They used to send flowers to the stores, fresh flowers every week to the stores. They used to give people off on their birthday. They used to have holiday parties for everybody. The gratis that artists used to get involved full collections. Artists used to get every single thing that came out. Don't get me wrong, I was always grateful for everything I got, but I definitely saw a huge decline in gratis even in the 2 years that I worked there. When I started, we were guaranteed 2 or 3 things from each collection that came out. Anytime we launched a new product, we got at least one thing from whatever new whatever came out. By the time I left, we were lucky to get anything. If it was a major collection, we would get a lipstick. If it was a major launch of a really new thing, we might get it. But mostly, no. They gave us EMS twice a year, which I never learned what EMS stood for, but it was basically like twice a year they would give you a certain dollar amount and you could spend that on almost anything. So a full-timer got $400 and a part-timer got $200. And for the majority of my time at MAC, I was 1 hour away from being full-time. So I got $200 for most of my time. Eventually I got up to full-time, and that $400 EMS was like pretty nice, I'm not gonna lie, but they never sent it all out. I don't know a single person who got the full EMS that they ordered. They would usually give you like half of what you ordered. So like it was still nice to receive free stuff, like it's just free stuff, but that's part of the perks of working for the brand. And when they don't deliver on what they promised, like that's just another way of them saying like, we don't care if you have it or not. We don't care if you use it or not. Just sell it. We'll teach you what it is. We'll teach you what it does. You may or may not try it. Just sell it. Just repeat what we tell you. Doesn't matter if you use it or like it. And while that was all happening, while they stopped giving us gratis, while they stopped sending out EMS, we were seeing a huge influx in the products that they were sending to influencers. I know that social media can bring in a lot of new clients, but it was up to us to keep those clients. It was up to us to sell the product in a heartfelt way. It was up to us to maintain that relationship with the clients, and none of us used the products. We had like no reason to, really, and we weren't being treated very well. We weren't selling from experience, we weren't selling from the heart, we weren't selling because we believed in the product. We were selling because we were put under pressure and we were just told to regurgitate information. Our trainings never involved actual artistry. Our trainings were 100%, here's how to sell this product. But you're not gonna get it. So if you wanna try it, you have to buy it. And if I'm being honest, the products are mostly okay. The quality has gone down severely. I remember when MAC used to have the best quality. Their eyeshadows were the best. Foundations, best. They were known for their foundations. And now I don't even reach for mine anymore. I rarely use my MAC products anymore. The eyeshadows are dry and chalky and low in pigment and patchy. I hate MAC eyeshadows for the most part. They used to be a trend-setting brand and now they can't even keep up. Their whole like MAC Girls palette thing that they're trying to do is laughable at best. The quality of those palettes are atrocious. The Jeremy Scott collection that came out recently is garbage. That is the direction they're taking. They're cutting corners on quality. They're cutting corners on training. Right before I left, they stopped doing trainings in order to try to save money. I don't know if that still is the case. When you stop training your staff effectively, that's a really great way for product knowledge and artistry to just go out the window, because it became pretty obvious they didn't care about either of those things. They didn't care if you knew the ins and outs of the product. They didn't care if you knew the ingredients. They didn't care if you knew how to use it. They didn't care any of that, as long as you could memorize the blurb that they gave you about the product and just say it to the customer. They also recently cut all freelance and full-time positions, at least in my region, and I heard about this from somebody who works at a like major store in my area, and she had to change her position in order to stay with the brand because they cut off full-time positions. They did that because they don't have to give benefits to part-time people, and they took freelancers away because they didn't want to pay them. And freelancers are a really good way to like help support, especially on busy days when a freelancer comes in. They don't have a goal, so they're just there to literally do customer service. They're there to do the makeup appointments. They're there to help the team, and they cut those positions. So basically the only people that remain with the brand now are going to be untrained part-timers and understaffed, burnt out, and exhausted managers. Like how do they think that that's not gonna go to shit? Like, I don't understand the thought process behind that. Like, I know they're trying to cut corners and save money and make budget cuts and all that, but like the things that they're cutting don't make sense. Cutting trainings and cutting full-time people who have been with the brand for many years. They're cutting gratis so their artists don't like use or understand the products as well as they could. It's weird. Like, you can really see where their values are. Also, when I worked there, I never once had a weekend off unless it had been like a PTO or something like that. Like, don't even think about asking for a Saturday off. Saturdays were mandatory for every single artist. And when I left the brand, I made sure to leave on good terms because for a long time I thought that I would want to still do freelance. I had a lot of friends that still worked for MAC, and I had a lot of repeat customers that I knew that I would miss. And honestly, like, I still had and still have a love for makeup, and I love to do makeup. I have a freelance business of my own. Despite all the shit that MAC put me through, I still wanted to stay on as freelance. So when I put in my 2 weeks and I expressed that I wanted to be freelance, I was told that there would be no problem with it. I do a great job. They'd love to have me. A month after I left, I called my old manager and asked if she had any freelance hours for me, and she let me know that unfortunately I wasn't on the freelance team. No explanation, no reason, but she said I could wait 6 months and then apply to be on the freelance team if I really wanted to be. And for a long time I thought I would, but they just cut it, so fuck that. MAC sucks ass. Bottom line, Mac sucks ass. As a brand, their values suck ass. Working for Mac sucks ass. It will suck the soul out of you. So if this video changes the mind of just one person who thought they wanted to be a Mac artist, then I've done my job. It's all worth it. Working for Mac spiked my anxiety and made my depression plummet. In the 2 years that I worked there, I gained nearly 50 pounds. And I'm still suffering from bad habits that I acquired while just trying to cope with working for such a toxic brand. Our counter had a 100% turnover in the 2 years that I worked there. In fact, it was like more than that because a lot of people came in and worked for less than 6 months and left, but not now. But as far as like the people I started with and the people that were there when I left, 100% new people. And it wasn't just the counter that I worked for. These are problems at the core of the brand. It's greed and it's lack of empathy. When you're being treated like trash, you start to feel like trash. And we had to call in our hours every week because Mac was still stuck in the fucking 80s. Again, they didn't want to shell out money to like create an app for us to clock in and out or to get our schedules. We had to fucking call a phone number and put in our employee number, our PIN number. We had to select which type of hours we were calling in. It was like a 5-minute long process at best. For like when you're new, it took me like 15 minutes just to call in my hours every week. It was so fucking stupid. But the last time I had to call in my hours, I hung up the phone and I just sobbed because I was so happy because I knew it was over. And that speaks volumes. Like when you're just like, you come out of like hell and you're done and you're free and it's over and you just sob because you're so happy that you don't have to fucking do that again. That's what it's like when you leave Mac. I know that like some people had good experiences with Mac, but none of the people that I know that worked for Mac had a good experience. Like I know that it's out there. I know that a good manager can really make a difference, and unfortunately I didn't have good managers. I'm not saying my managers were bad people, but they weren't good managers. So that's it. That was my experience working for Mac. And from what I hear, it's only getting worse. Mac is getting cheaper and they're cutting more positions. They're taking more resources away from artists. They are dying and they know it. I would love to hear from other people who have worked for Mac or who've had experiences with Mac. I have a strong feeling that my experience is not unique. I really believe that the good experiences are few and far between, especially more recently. I know that a long time ago, like even like 5 years ago, it was a lot better than it is now. I would like to hear other stories. I would like to hear good stories, bad stories. I really hope that Mac makes some serious changes. I really hope that they stop testing on animals. And if I'm honest, if they stop testing on animals, it could potentially bring me back as a customer. Not all of their products are shit, just most of their products are shit. But I think if they, you know, reevaluate their values, if they start to put money into what matters and make some better choices, I think they could turn it around. Mac used to be the top, Mac used to be the best, and now it's just shit. Like mostly just shit. As always, my social media will be linked below. And I just want to say thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.